lot of times I'm driving, there's nothing to do, and I shuffle through the radio before I unglue. There's a lot of red on ways, it's traffic, I'm screwed, and I'm wired a bit different than a regular dude. It's not a bad thing, I embrace it, it's true. The radio don't stimulate brain chemistry fluid. The Buddha found nirvana and the Four Noble Truths. Through a meditative process, right action he proved. For me, I require the use of a tool, a detector, pin, pointer, shovel, and beach scoop. I'm meant to work the dirt with my history crew, but everywhere I look, my interest taboo. Most people choose Bieber over Tippecanoe. What does a detectorist listen to when the radio is full of bad music and news? I need an alternative for me to peruse. Beyond Sight and Sound gets fantastic reviews. A metal detecting show where my thought bubble brews. Thank you, Josh Kimmel, for inviting me to a detecting dork out with guests like yours truly.
Are you looking for a high-quality beach and sand scoop? Are you trying to take your hunting to the extreme? How about an American-based company that stands behind their product and everything they sell? Then check out our friends over at XTREME Scoops. John has been making scoops for some time now and makes a quality beach and sand scoop to take your hunting to the next level. XTREME Scoops recently released their new sand shredder that works great in the water and on the beach. And if you're a new Equinox user, you may want to check out his Surfmaster X3 that can trap those small targets you new Equinox users are finding out there. XTREME Scoop's company approach is let's do it right. So do it right, buy it once, and go to the extreme. XTREMEScoops.com. That's XTREME scoops.com.
Hey boys and girls, we are going to talk about S&W shooters and prospectors. What is S&W shooters and prospectors?
We at S&W Shooters and Prospectors help people find treasure.
Did you say treasure?
Yes, treasure. Just listen to this amazing review from our happy customer, Jackie Sparrow.
Chuck was shipshape and a pleasure to deal with. I was able to buy everything that I needed at prices that were shillings less than others. I found my 9 pieces of 8 in no time. Savvy?
I know you're asking yourself, why should I shop at S&W Shooter and Prospectors?
Chuck Smalley has over 45 years of metal detecting experience. He works with each customer one-on-one to customize their setup to match their skill level.
So if you always dreamt of being a pirate, contact Chuck at S&W Shooters and Prospectors and he'll dig up a great deal for you.
Eye patch and rum not included.
Caution. Please do not operate motor vehicles or power equipment while under the influence of this show. Listening to this show could cause side effects such as bouts of laughter, violent binges of cabin fever, and even dreams of silver and gold. Please be advised. Now that the fine print is out of the way, on with the show.
All right, the fine print's out of the way. It's time to roll with the show. We're back. We're live once again. You are listening to Beyond Sight and Sound, metal detecting and treasure hunting radio for all the digging people out there. And what just happened to my chat? I'm way behind in the chat. I'll have to fix that. Get down here to the bottom where everybody is. Well, the bottom on my end, anyway. Okay, so... wow, and we're already seeing people dropping in, seeing people saying good show Monday to Chuck, and it was a good show. He was over on Detect America Live, just the other day, actually, Monday, and very nice. Frank and them had contacted me. They're like, hey, we want to make sure, we're not stepping on anybody's toes or anything. If you've already got Chuck scheduled, and no, that's fine. Go ahead. It's that's the way the scheduling fell. Get him in there and get the information shared and all of that. So we've got the links in the description. We've got the links in the chat. Shooters and Prospectors, DETECTEES, Extreme Scoops, TheRingFinders, Nokta Makro, Detect America, all of that stuff. The YouTube channels, which you can, if you get on YouTube, make sure and check out Chicago Ron. Make sure and check out Shooters and Prospectors. Well, I don't know. We'll find out if... I don't know if that's showing up on Shooters and Prospectors or Crazy Spider Adventures, but I would imagine it's showing up on Shooters and Prospectors. So keep an eye out for that stuff. Also, little something different tonight in the chat, and I'll mention this a few times through the show. For everyone that is tuning in and actually getting into the chat, we could say, sure, throw us a like and all of that, but instead, well, you can throw us a like if you'd like, that's fine. But what we're going to do is we want everybody that's in the chat to at least say, hi, Tam, at least once. Let everybody have a turn. Because Tam's going to be taking these names down for something a little later in the show. So make sure and get in there and say, hi, Tam, so she can see everybody's names that's in the chat. Because if you don't comment in the chat, we won't... I knew somebody was going to do that, and if anybody was, it was going to be Mike. Oh, how did I know? How did I know? But either way, obviously, as those that have been following the show know, Chuck, Frank, and the gang, they were all up in Alaska doing the great grand time of a gold hunt, good grief, and... Chuck had actually called in right after Ron did the last night that he was in Alaska, pretty much, and was going to do a little recap of the Alaska trip. Would have been Sunday, but we had Lisa on Sunday, already had her scheduled, so... Chuck was going to hang out there until Wednesday, and we were going to do it Wednesday, so that's how he came to be over on Detect America Monday, and got to share some interesting stories and information over there with them. They had a good time with it, and now we've got Chuck with us tonight. And not only do we have Chuck, but we also have the class fisherman on too, I guess, apparently, that took a little bit of a break from gold prospecting to feed the crew for a couple of nights. So, let's get into all of this.
He did
that. Right. Let's get into all of this then and see how it's going for everybody. So, how's it going, Chuck? How's it going, Frank?
Doing good, thank you. It's excellent. You can't imagine that trip was one of those that was for the books. It was one of those that you'll never forget.
No.
And it worked out because the crew got together. We met on how we were going to do stuff the first night we were there, and we laid out some game plan on the slick plate, how we'd work that as a common operation and split it all up, high bankers and metal detecting, and they had a fresh tailings pile along Anvil Creek, and they opened it up the day before we got there. And it was literally the remnants of the gold mine with some gold left in it.
Yeah, and some pieces of gold quite a bit bigger than others.
Oh, massive. And, you know, folks, I've done this for many, many, many years. The largest one that I ever recovered was just over 3 ounces. And that was a nice piece. I still have it. But when you see something like that come out of the ground, and that was amazing in itself. And then I'm standing there with Mike, and he called me over. Get over here. You need to see this. I got something heavy.
Right. He's
okay. So,
he's probably kind of second guessing himself, going, "That can't be real. It's too big to be real."
Well, in the color on it wasn't. You know, gold nuggets don't pop up out of the ground with a glowing effect. They don't pop out of the ground always bright and shiny. Sometimes I've seen them come through sluice boxes. The water's been running, and the muck and the mud that's built up on them over years is gone, and they're bright and shiny, and they just glow at you. But this one, it was still down in an old tailings pile, covered in mud, and that you could just catch a off yellow on one spot.
So
and
basically,
he dropped
once
it in my hand, and I looked at him, and I said, "Oh my God." He said, "What do you mean?" So doing what I do, spit on it, and started rubbing on the pants to shine up that area, and it started shining. It started coming up, and then Ron Guinazzo came over. And he went, "Oh!" We dropped it in his hand, and he said, "I got water," and he got a bottle of water, and we started a light clean on it. You don't want to sit and scrub it, because in the cracks and crevices, there's other little pieces of gold. You do it in a gold pan, you recover everything.
You don't want to knock them out.
And Mike was shaking, and even me to a certain point, I'm like, "Dude, you've got no idea what you got in your hand." "Well, I got gold." "No, you've got a rarity." And we actually did a little guessing game on the weight. And if you looked at it, some people called it 8 ounces. Well, under standard weight, it was 793. But the way it's measured is in troy ounces, and it was 7.2 troy. And we took off a little while later and went down to where Augie was at, because he was cleaning with Frank on the fish that they brought in. And standing there, and I walked up to Augie. They wanted me to ask some questions, so I did. I said, "Augie, what's the biggest nugget ever come off of here?" And he said, "Well, back in the day, they found that half of that one. They've never found the other half. It was 300 ounces. No, I mean metal detected." "Why?" "Well, just how big." And Mike reached out and he said, "Catch." And Augie, he didn't catch it. It hit the table, and he started screaming. Literally stopped his lungs. Literally, him and Ty were like, there was other people there, and he's like, "Oh God." And we there for a little while, and ran up, and I ran into Betty. I said, she was in her truck just about to leave. I said, "Don't leave. You have to stay here a minute." "Why?" I said, "Trust me, it's coming. Stay here."
Right, wait for it.
Frown a little bit. Mike and crew came up in the big 4-wheeler. It's a 5-man, and he got out, and I said, "Bring it here, Mike." And he just reached out, and it was closed up in his hand. She put her hands out, and he dropped it in there, and she all but screamed. And she said, "If I'd have found that, Chuck, I'd have had a heart attack."
Right. So by the time word was spread, he was probably glowing more than that nugget was.
Yeah. I saw prices for nuggets that size ranging from about $39,000 to $55,000.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that I was trying to explain to some of the people listening to the show, is the fact that they have to understand when a nugget like that comes up, now we're not talking just gold price with a small premium or something. Nuggets that size do not come up very often, which make them very unique, which drives the premium up as a specimen piece for nugget collectors. And for one like that, we're well over spot plus premium.
Yeah. And he was offered a rather large sum of money and turned it down. It was offered $30,000 from the local buyer. He said, "Nah, I'm taking it home, and I will quote him, I have myself a new paperweight for my desk.
I love it. I mean, if you've got people that have 65-pound silver bars from the Atocha using them in their home as doorstops, why can't he use it as a paperweight? And it's going to make a great conversation piece.
Right. So, and it didn't stop, though. I mean, all week long, we got gold off the slick plate, the high bankers. We got gold metal detecting. We got relics and old coins. And everybody went with the attitude, we're going to go out there and we're going to find something. And the first day we were there that afternoon, it was still raining hard. And it was muddy and such. And the next day, it was drizzly and gray, but then it started breaking. And for about 3 days, it was beautiful. And one morning was cold. It was 27 degrees out, something like that. Froze the water in the pan and troughs and this kind of stuff. But a couple hours, it was up into the 60s. We were out cruising around detecting. We were running a slick plate. We were doing it as crews. We were in that for 2 solid days. And everybody got a dump truck load, which is 10 to 11 yards and 10 to 11 tons, whatever you want to call it. So we ran about 40 tons of material, and then we had to clean up that night. We all got together, cleaned it up, tearing it down, putting it back together right again with everything in the right places, and then running those concentrates through a high banker, taking it up, running it through a gold cube, and then doing what everybody does. I don't care how big or little you are, they all end up panning and getting as much out of it as you can. And everybody got upwards of almost 1/4 ounce. So for the week. And above, with the guys detecting, we had 5 guys get some nice nuggets that week, and detecting and other things. And I stayed busy making sure that everybody, we had a couple things, bumps in the road. We had 2 ATVs, the single ones not breakdown. They had a little water in the gas. They just wouldn't run. So they had to be cleaned out. We swapped other ATVs and we never sat still. It was a week-long adventure, and we worked at it. And then my 2 fishermen that went, they did too, right up to about Wednesday, and then the fish came in. The water's cleared up. They've been dropping. And Frank had the opportunity. I'll let him tell you about his opportunities and their fishing and that kind of stuff, because when the cohos show up, look out, the fight's on.
Right. And I hear Frank even brought some salmon back for Chuck.
Yes,
I
he did.
We were just,
but I'll turn it over to talk about the other opportunities there.
Yeah, I got gold this time. Like Chuck said, 1/4 ounce. Didn't get washed this time, thank God. But anyway, come Wednesday, it was a couple dreary days, but Wednesday, the sun popped out. It was a gorgeous day. So then we took off, and it was a 50-mile ride from where we were at. I went around this big mountain, and boy, the weather sure changed from where we were at to where we went to go fishing. And then it got cloudy, overcast, kind of drizzled all day. And here they are on the other side with the sun shining over where they were at. But anyway, we went for about a 50-mile drive it was called Pilgrim River, I think it's called. Yeah, I know it was Pilgrim because I took a picture of the bridge there, by the bridge. And as they were putting in, they told me, hey, go over there on the other side of the bridge and do some casting. So I did, and didn't really get nothing. So I'm going to go up on top of the bridge and see. And I noticed 3 of them by a big old rock in this deep hole. So I started casting off the bridge. One chased it, big salmon, big silver, and nope, didn't take it. So I cast it again a little further, but I let it sink just right before it got to them other 3. And man, I got a big old hit and set the hook, and man, he took off going downstream. So here I am up on top of this bridge. So I ran over to the other side, and I had to put my arm underneath the railing there and grab my pole and then slide underneath and then run down toward the water's edge fighting this big fish. And I finally got it in, and it was about a 15-pound silver. That was the first fish I caught for the day.
Well, so that's a way to start off.
It was great. And then we loaded the boat up, and we took off for about a 30-mile ride downriver. And then the sun kind of popped out a little bit for a while, and it kind of warmed up. And we were catching these big northerns. I mean, huge northerns. They were about 37 inches long, probably 12, 15 pounds easy. And we had a 120-quart igloo cooler that was full of them. And because the people up there hate them because they eat all the trout. You know, the salmon do.
Oh, the salmon.
The northern do. Yeah, they eat the trout, and they say, catch all you want, man. We hate them. So anyway, we had a little guy with us. This guy was Tim, and he was from I think Washington. And he said, man, my bucket list is to catch a big northern here this time, you know. And we boated 30 miles downriver, got to our destination. The second cast, Tim caught the biggest northern, fighting like crazy, and I netted it for him and stuff. And he was jumping around and having he says, oh my God, I did it, and got the fish unhooked, threw it in the cooler, and here he throws out again, and here he caught another one. I go, man, you're on a hot streak, man.
Right.
It was fun. We had a good time. So, and then that was that day. So then the next day we went up the Snake River down by where the airport is, where you land and you can walk over there. You can see salmon, but they must have come up that night because we didn't see anything where we usually fish. So we boated up river a ways, and then all of a sudden the Augie goes up. There they go. So there they went into a deep hole. So we anchored the boat, got on shore, and we started casting egg sacks. We tied an egg knot on a leader where you open it up, put the sack in there, and then you tighten it down, and then you hook it in the membrane, and a little small quarter-ounce egg sinker and a swivel, and you throw it out there as far as you can, and it's just like catfishing, where it bounces on the bottom. You can feel it bounce, and all of a sudden you feel a couple ticks. And as soon as you feel the tick, you watch your pole, and your pole is starting to bend down. As soon as it bends down, you set the hook. They come flying out of the water, and then they take off going downstream again. There you are, fighting. Hell, we caught, the limit's 3 there, so we caught 9 nice big silver salmon, and another good trip, and had a blast up, there in Nome, Alaska.
So not only was the gold hunting good, the fishing was excellent too, and it sounds like it fed the crew for a couple of days, and the food wasn't bad either.
No complaints. Everything was good for sure.
Wow.
So, but yeah,
we had very few glitches. I mean, other than a couple ATVs that they had to drag back from where we were at, a little remote there, to unfoul them and get them going. But they had backups. We grabbed backups in exchange. We could ferry guys back and forth. We had enough ATVs to get them back, get a fresh one, and keep going. And we never stopped. I mean, we hit the ground running, and we stayed at that speed. A friend of mine came up a couple days to check on us, and then he'd heard about that 7-ouncer, and he had to come see that. And it was due to his efforts to help Augie out that we actually got on this spot like it was, Steve Pomeranke. And Steve did a second push, and that opened up more gold. We got more gold, and that's when Mike found his on the after the second push up.
Wow. Well, that is definitely a huge nugget. I mean, that had to have been an experience in its own, just to be able to set stand around in a circle with everybody, whatever, and pass that nugget around and be able to see it and hold it. And
you got no idea, Josh. The word gets out. When a gold camp's doing good, the word gets out. Doesn't take long. People were showing up just to get a picture, just to hold on to it, just to see that. I mean, literally, they were coming in from town, and they wanted to see that nugget. They wanted a picture of that nugget because that nugget is an anomaly. It doesn't get found all the time, and there's been bigger ones. And there still is a nugget out there somewhere that the original Gnome Wonder nugget was 300 pounds. It's been melted, and it was half. It was broken half. So every gold miner up there that's doing ground has tried in vain yet to this day to find that other half.
Well, it's out there somewhere.
That's right. And they still talk about it, and they still look for it. And somebody someday is going to trip and fall, and it'll be laying to their right going, there it is.
Yeah, because you know it's there somewhere, because if someone had found a nugget that size, they wouldn't be able to keep it quiet.
But I will go back. There are many instances of 8, 10, 12, 5, 6, 7 ounce nuggets up there, threes. It happens. And it happened for our crew, and it happened for Mike. And it is, I mean, all of you got a bucket list out there of something that you want to find, whether it's a gold coin, a Washington button, a CS plate, whatever. I mean,
right.
Just think of that and then look at that nugget and go, whoa, because that is a commodity. That gold's never been zero, ever.
Exactly.
And you have the opportunity to dig something like that and then just hang on to it. That is fantastic.
Yep, I agree. And we've got just a few minutes left before we quit letting those people get their names in. So if you haven't already, make sure and post in the chat, hi, Tam. So she can make sure she's got everybody's names.
Yep.
And
So,
you, after everybody did the final weigh-in from the slick plate and all of that got divvied up and everything, most of the crew headed back home, I guess, and you headed further north.
Yeah, I headed over to Fairbanks. I met up with Jill, my brother-in-law, sister-in-law. We did a few things together, and the brother-in-law had some spots to take me to. He knows some of the miners up there. In fact, he knows a lot of miners up there because sometimes they have to fly equipment into them, some remote locations. And he had arranged for me to go to a couple spots and operations, and they were literally interested in not so much me. They wanted me to go check places. And the one spot I was at, he literally dug a 14-foot trench, brought material up, and had me checking it. And it was loaded with fine gold. I'm talking fine gold. You could see it from the depth. It would crackle on the machines. And I picked it up and I showed Robert and Gary, who was along. I said, look at my hand. He's got to run this because it's just full of fine gold. I mean, literally. And I said, I'm getting hits. They're tiny. I mean, literally tiny. It just gives a crackle or it'll flash a number on the Equinox, and that's it. You hear it, but you try to separate it out. And it was panable material. And on the pulse unit, but even at that depth, I was showing them some of the things I was recovering. There was still lead and pieces of iron from the early days. That particular spot where he cut that trench across had been dug down to until the final end, and then it was loaded. So he knew at the end, and I showed him where his pay streak was running.
Wow. That is something else.
Further up, and I hit a little nugget patch, and I showed him that too. And he says, we don't think where you're at has really been mined much. There's some tailings there, but it hasn't been mined much. And we went back by there the next day, and they were already moving equipment in. And this guy runs a fantastic operation. I mean, it's one of the nicest operations I've seen next to Steve Pomeranke's. And he
That's
was
saying something.
test sampling there. And I got a fair amount of gold out of that. But then we went up to Gary's claim, and that was approximately 125 miles up the Steese Highway, up over Eagle Pass, down, and then 9 miles off road. And it's not road that you're really traveling much. It's just a 2-track. And if you guys saw the pictures of the rolling hills and that's where I was at. I also have great video that's going to be put up on a YouTube thing of us getting in and out of there. It's a slow crawl. And we got to his claim, and he's just getting it put together, and he's got an equipment back there. It takes a lot of time, a lot of work. And he's ran a little bit. He's got a little shaker table and that kind of stuff. And the history was a gentleman acquired this claim in like 1980, 79. He started, all he wanted to do was detect. And he took many nuggets at a half to 1 ounce off of it, and with a metal detector, and then they just high bank. And so Gary's getting set up to really run it, and he's a claim holder. It's not patented. He doesn't own the ground, but it's a claim. He gets the mineral rights. So we cut a deal on 1 ounce and larger. I wasn't there 10 minutes. I walked the beeline across the creek. He told me this particular area, this slough, is where he got a lot of it that was coming down and washed down. I went there 10 minutes and I pinged a 2 ounce nugget.
That's awesome.
He had the right either buy me out or I bought him out at the half. So I took it in when I went back to Fairbanks following day and had it looked at. We weighed it on theirs. It was 2 troy ounces. And he gave me an appraisal of $5,000. So he cut me a check for $2,500, and he has the nugget. He didn't want to leave in Alaska. I said, that's fine.
Nice.
So, yeah, I've got no problem with that. Now, some people may. I don't. Gold's a commodity, and it trades. I've sold gold. I've sold a lot of ounces. In fact, I've sold pounds of gold when we were running bigger equipment. My share and that kind of stuff, that paid bills.
Right.
And it bought me a new pickup.
Hey, nothing wrong with that at all. And for those who may not have heard or may be wondering, the vast majority of this gold, including the huge nugget, were found with equinoxes.
The Equinox was shining, let me tell you. And I was using PI. I was trying to learn the new 6000. It did well.
Right.
But it took me a little bit of a learning curve. When I had the time I was working with it, I was oversensitive on it. I busted the sensitivity down. And the Equinox, if it got close when I had the sensitivity up, would really make that go crazy. But once I got down on the right level, I could hunt relatively close to them. But you got to realize that's PI. There's no discrimination. So, but it is what it is. And I'm going to tell you something. I am betting on the guys that hunt Virginia and those tough places. That machine will cut the mustard better than any I have handled. That thing should find you relics like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, I think we're going to find that it will be utilized in the relic hunting niche, and people are going to do quite well with it.
Yep, and it does very well out in, Arizona. I've been watching some of the guys using it out there, and they're hammering it. They've got it dialed in. It's easy to do that. It isn't like the 5000 where you're trying to find the right timings and get everything set up and this kind of stuff. This thing is turn on, figure it out, get your sensitivity right and go. And I'm impressed with it. It did very well. Now, I didn't get a 7-ounce nugget, unfortunately. But
well, we can't all come home with nuggets that size, I guess.
Did get a couple pieces in that little patch I was in, and I was tickled with that, and it was still finding plenty of lead.
Right. And I mean, not only was the Equinox finding a vast majority of this gold being recovered, but it was even picking up on sub-gram nuggets, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Granted, that may not have been at depth, but it was still getting them.
Well, Ron got one that weighed, I'm thinking he told me, I saw it, 0.3 grams and a couple inches deep.
Nice.
0.3. Okay? So, and there was a couple other smaller ones, and I even found a smaller one. And it's like, wow. And it rings back to finding these post earrings. You know how much is on there.
Yeah.
It's sub-gram, and it hammers them. I mean, you know, you go out, you find rings, you find all this stuff. And to me, I enjoy it very much and have for many years. But going out and popping a 2-ounce nugget or a 3-ounce or a 1-ouncer and then coming home and digging memorial pennies is a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, it's once you're finding stuff like that, it makes it a little hard to come back home and get excited over a Mercury dime or an Indian head penny or something like that.
Yeah. So we've already got a booking for next year, and many of the original crews going to return, and the camp loved us because we didn't complain. We went out and we did, and we succeeded, and we had fun, and it was a great trip. And Chicago Ron, Mike, Tim, Frank. I just talked with, let's see, who else was it? Almost 100% of the original crew is going back.
Well, I can understand why.
Yeah.
I mean,
so we've already got things going, and there will be some open spots once some other people are contacted, and I'll let you know when and how all this will go down. And there will be a deposit. You send your deposit in. It's not refundable, but if it's a COVID-related thing or health issue, she'll refund you. Like on COVID, she said she'll get $400 back. And you're reserving a spot. We'll have. We're trying to have the entire camp for just that crew.
Nice. Very cool.
So I've got to talk with some other people yet that had wanted to go, couldn't go. Ron DeGhetto is going. Dave White is going again. Ronnie wanted to go this year, but there were some mitigating circumstances. He couldn't go to get some things finished up. He's got that finished up, and he's free of it. And this is going to be a dandy of a trip. And I tell everybody that if you can bring the right equipment, and there's a whole list of what you should bring, right on her webpage at AKAU Alaska Gold Resort. And you click on the upper, and it's got a list of recommended stuff to bring. And they've got picks up there. They've got pans up there. They've got plastic scoops. Plastic scoops are very important. When you're getting down to the bottom, you're looking for something smaller, you use that and you break it down when you got the signal in your scoop. And you break it down by hand until you just got it, and then you sort it out. Or if it's really tiny, you just throw it, you can put it in a pan, save it for later, and pan it out if you'd like. And there's a little method to the madness there. But like in Mike's, he didn't need a scoop. It was big enough. Mine too, because I happen, you'll see it in the video when that does come out. I get down and I'm looking and I brush something and I see a little gold showing up, and I just sat there and wiped it off, and I went, "Ooh, this is a good one." I just kept going and I plucked it out from there, and that type of stuff. So
well, and it's
I can't say enough about the way they treat you up there. It's phenomenal. I made sure everybody that wanted to go on the last night we were there, we went to Pomeranke's claim. He'd been up and talked with the guys and introduced himself and running the cat around. And when he shows up in a cat, it's about 1.5 stories tall, and the blade is whiter than the roads. And and the guys were looking at his equipment. We were down there. We had an awful friendly fox show up, and it hung around quite a while. And then the cut that he's making, but we got to go up to the sluice and the screens. They shut down 1 hour, and they will actually run water, pushing the gold deeper into the carpet, and continue to run. They'll run a full week. Then they'll do a cleanup. We didn't see a cleanup, but we got to see them just before they started pushing the gold down. an estimation was laying on the top of the sluices was 150 to 200 ounces of gold.
That's a large-scale operation for sure.
Oh,
and for those of you that were putting into the chat, hi, Tim, you folks are going to want to stick around because we've got a little surprise for somebody.
You got to stay on. You got to stay on.
Yep.
We got something for you. You're going to like it. So hang in there, and we'll go to that in a little bit.
Right.
And Frank, what did you think of? You've been there with me before. How'd you like the experience this time?
It was great. My big thrill is riding the four-wheelers up and down the trails and stuff. I just can't do that around here in Iowa, and I just go nuts. But the experience...
It was a pretty bumpy ride this time, from what I hear.
Yeah, coming back home was a little on the rough side. I got home 26 and a half hours later when we were going home. But that was the only complaint that I had. But, man, I'll tell you, it's a wonderful experience. You'll love it. The scenery's great. Nice people. Good food.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just...
better than that.
I couldn't believe the photos that Chuck was sending me were just phenomenal. Just unbelievable scenery.
Oh,
we did not have bear problems. We saw muskox, we saw fox, we saw, all the critters. I did see one bear one night, and that was when I drove out to be over Nome so I could get cell connection to talk with you. And just before I called in, I watched a grizzly cutting across the top of Anvil, and he disappeared. And I just kind of kept watching the whole time I was talking to you guys. And that particular grizzly had been hunting the young muskox. He was after one of those because the fish were not in yet, and that's what they gorge on this time of year. And he was a good sized one, but he'd been outside the camp the week before, and a couple shots were fired just to get him to move out, and he took off, and they hadn't seen him. But the neighbor had gotten hold of Augie, which is around the backside of the mountain, that bear had been in their yard. So he'd been chasing muskox, and he disappeared. The fish were in. He went down to the streams.
Wow. Well, so there were there were no animal encounters that were too close for comfort.
No, just mosquitoes.
Well, yeah, but isn't that kind of the state bird for Alaska?
That's state bird. You are right. You are 100% right. And they did show up, especially the nicer day down. There's kind of a bowl down there with a slick plate set up. There's holding ponds, dredges there. This kind of high bankers are down in there also. So you just dope up real good. Or a couple days, a couple people were wearing head nets with mosquito netting on just because they're a nuisance. They don't get on you if you're really doped up good with it, but they're right in your face. So put a head net on. Everybody was comfortable. Temperatures the one day got up around 75. It was down to t-shirts, and it was nice. And another day was near 70. And I mean, we'd go back in and eat. We hop back on the bikes and we'd head back out detecting or high banking. Because it didn't get dark till around 11, and the light was back on 4:20 in the morning. You had light.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we still had 19 hours plus of good working light at that time, and it's a hoot. It really is. And if you do get fortunate to find a nice sized nugget. And there were several half-ouncers that came in, quarter-ouncers, eighths, that kind of stuff. It's neat. And so we took every advantage to make sure everybody got a little gold. Those who wanted to fish, fished. Those who wanted to ride ATVs, Dave would take off. He'd just tour the backcountry once in a while, doing the loop up there. There was one trail that Frank, Dave, and I took out. We headed out there with Augie and Tida one day, and they got on the back of their claim, it had been hydraulic, and you can work around those rocks. And there was fresh. People hadn't been in there; it had been too wet; they couldn't get in. And there were fresh tracks and fresh digs of nobody that was in the camp. So they were watching that close to run off the snipers.
Wow. That's unfortunate that things like that go on.
We took the 400s out, Frank, Dave, and I, and then coming back, that road is just incredible. It's not a road. It's a 2-track with ruts and full of water and mud. I hit a spot and it kicked and threw me sideways. I held on. I mean, I wasn't doing any high rate of speed, but I'm hanging on. I got a leg up under the right handlebar and the other leg holding me on, and I'm looking back at Dave going, hey, if you can step up here, give me a push.
Right, a hand, please.
He shoved me back up. He said, I wish I had that camera running. I said, I'm thankful you didn't.
Right. So, obviously, then, everybody, well, the way it sounds, everybody that was along on this trip has already voiced that they're going along for next year. And I'm sure Ronnie's kind of kicking himself for not being able to make this trip.
Yeah, there's a couple, 2, 3 of them. Whatever. Well, here's your opportunity next year, and plan on it. And I mean, if you go to, and Frank and I found this out a couple of years ago. There's out a ways from Nome, about 90 miles up. We went by a fish camp, and I mean, this is a kind of a pretty nice place. They've got, it's for fishermen, and a 4-day stint there is almost double the cost of staying with Betty just to go fishing.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And it's, like I said, I tell everybody, there's graylings up to 16, 18 inches long in places. There's trout, and Dolly Varden are coming in behind the salmon, and the fishing is world class. I mean, people from all over the world come there to go to these places. And
yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, we're looking for gold, and then we get to go fishing if you want. And they've got it there. They've got rods, and the side trips cost a little extra money, like what Frank went out on. I mean, we're not talking a walk in the park. He drove 50 miles, hopped in a boat, went 30 miles. He left, I think, around, what time was it, Frank, you left?
Around, I think, 9:30 or 10, and we didn't get back to about 12:30, that night. 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. It was
a long day.
And then coming back, the sun went down. It was getting dark. Yeah, I said to myself, I should have brought that extra sweater. Man, I like to froze my hind end off coming back. But it was worth it. It was worth every minute. It was good time.
Now,
sure.
For those of you who are questioning if you are COVID, we were asked if we had our cards when we got at Nome. Everybody said, yep. They said, go on in.
Hey, there you go.
That was it. That's the only time I ever, they didn't need to see it. They just said, if you have your COVID shot, and because a couple of the remote villages, Indian villages around it, one had quite the amount of COVID there, and they're trying to prevent that. They basically secluded that town. Nobody in, nobody out, except medical people and supplies.
Yeah, I'm having to give that shot a little more thought myself, because we had a pretty close call with COVID here the other week.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's like, well, yeah, I don't want to delay treatment, but maybe I should and get that vaccine. So we're working on that too.
There you go. So, and if we have enough openings, I'll throw it out on the page here and see if anybody is really interested. You put an $800 deposit. It was $1,750. She had given us a discount that you write out, and then there's $400. $450, whatever it worked out to, for the ATV rental. Now that covers you detecting, that covers you fishing, that covers everything unless you're doing long side trips and that type of thing. And your food, it's inclusive. The gasoline's included for the ATVs. They've got rods and reels for you to use if you want. You got your picks up there, your gold pans, and your scoops. Everything else is listed. I do highly recommend just about a knee boot or a muck boot.
Right.
We used them. It was pretty sloppy the first couple days.
Oh yeah, it's
You're in a mining camp, folks. You get dirty, and they have a washer dryer there, free to use. So, we had people from Oregon and California and Massachusetts, Illinois, Iowa on this trip alone.
State.
Washington State, that's right. That's right.
Tim.
Jerry.
Little Tim.
Or Tim. Little Tim. So, and these guys that were there started hanging with us because we were having fun. No matter what was going on, we're going to have a good time.
Well, and that's the important part that me and Ron had kind of touched on that a little bit last week when Ron had called in. That if people are focused on, I got to find enough gold to pay for the trip, well,
right.
You're not going to enjoy all that there is because the pressure's on. Especially if somebody brings a nugget that size back into camp, then the pressure's really on.
Well, people didn't look at it that way, but
right.
We had guys saying, I want to find just a nugget. And that's all they really were after at that point. I want to find a nugget. Dave.
Right.
White,
if I can get just one, I'm happy.
We went off to a little side shoot. He was there 15 minutes. I said, work the slough. Work where that dozer rolled stuff up. He went 30 yards, and he got a nice quarter ounce, a really pretty one. And he come back chugging at me. He goes, I got one. I finally got one. There you go. And then he found two more. So he was very happy. Everybody that was there, didn't matter whether it was nuggets, fine gold, moderate gold pickers, whatever, we all went away with some gold in their pocket, some of the greatest memories you ever have. And I did what I felt I had to do to keep the guys in gold and in fishing, and kept any barriers pop up. I took care of them, and Augie appreciated that because I've been there so many times, and I just kept our group going and added more people. Little Tim, I met him. Frank and I knew him from previous trips. And Bruce, he is part of that Route 66 club down and he'd been there. There was Warren was there. A couple other guys I'd met in the past. They just started hanging out with us. I said, come on along, see if we can find anything.
Well, I can understand why. You can't beat the company.
Nope.
Not with the crew you had.
And, and having one crazy cousin from Boston made the whole trip worthwhile.
There you go.
I mean, Mikey is the crazy cousin from Boston.
Right.
He's a good guy. And he stirs the pot and I have a good time. And Ron's in there chirping, I'm chirping. And we just have a good time. And Tim Rushing being about the quietest in the group, he was having a blast. I mean, literally, we sat down and played the one night right, left, center, which is a dice game that Ron takes all your money on. We don't gamble, but Ron takes all your money on. And but he didn't win, and we had a good time doing that. And we kicked back. But usually we didn't stay in camp very long. It was, we're going down here, who's going where. We stayed in small groups or a whole group. And high banking and panning was going on all the time. And I mean, it's a great thing to go do. And a lot of gals showed up. I mean, there's women that come up there and they just go prospecting. I mean, they go out and they like digging and detecting and everything too. And it's a great place. It really is. So if you want to experience Alaska one time like that, we fly in a day early. We all met up in Anchorage. You guys probably saw the picture of us eating yak. The one restaurant served yak. So we tried yak quesadillas, and it tasted like beef quesadillas. I can't say anything about that, but we had a good time and got a good night's sleep, hopped on the plane, pulled out at 10:30 in the morning. We're in at noon over there at AKAU and going through, getting bikes, getting our cabins, getting unloaded, putting detectors together. Lunch was ready. We ate lunch. They talked about some things with us. And then we hopped the bikes. By 2 o'clock, we were on the pushes. We were on detecting, and by 3 o'clock, 1 or 2 nuggets already came up the first day.
Nice. So nobody was wasting any time. No moss grows.
No.
Good deal.
You got a week, and you make the most. And it's a no-wine trip. And I'm not talking about drinking wine. It's like, here it is. It's been laid out for you. Things happen. We're going to work through them, and we'll keep going. We're going to have a good time. We're going to find some gold. Frank's going to catch his fish, and he did. Him and Catfish found a couple good spots. He fed us a couple nights of some of the fresh salmon. They had not had fresh salmon in camp all year until Frank showed up.
Well, you can't beat that. And I'm sure that was some excellent eating.
Oh, man.
Yes, it was. There he
Fresh
is.
out of the ocean.
Right.
Out of the ocean and up into the streams, yes. Yep.
You can't get any fresher.
I mean, they haven't traveled 100 miles and got real rough and thin.
Exactly.
They're nice.
Right.
That's
Chuck's probably getting hungry for salmon now.
The only thing that we missed there, because of the roughness of the oceans, the crabbers were not out. They just couldn't get out there. So we didn't have fresh king crab. Only thing that we didn't get on this trip.
Well, still, the crab legs that I saw looked like they were good enough, so definitely couldn't beat that.
My nephews, oh my God, they were big around. I mean, you crack them, you just dump them out. There isn't any fishing for it. It just slides out. That's fresh crab. That was all fresh right there. That's flowing in daily. And the number ones do not leave the state of Alaska. The true number one size, you think you see big ones at Costco and these type of places. These things were huge. The claws were huge. I mean, just phenomenal good eating.
Right.
Definitely.
Rich. Well, what do you think, Chuck? Should we give somebody a surprise?
You want to do something with a surprise?
I do have a name here. And hopefully people were sticking around because I'm going to give them 2 minutes to either say that they're here in the chat or to call in.
Or make them call in. Call in. They got to call in and say hi to me.
Okay, well then.
Yeah, they got to call in.
There you go. They got to call in. So they've got 2 minutes to, well, if I can get my stuff straightened around here on my screen, they will have 2 minutes to call in. And hopefully we can do that without any issues. Let's see what I've got coming up here. Because for whatever reason, I've got a couple of different screens up that I don't normally have, and I'm not sure why that is. Okay, so earlier we wanted everybody to make sure that they had their name noticed in the chat, and while we were doing that, Tam was compiling a list of these folks that were dropping in to listen. And she brought the winner out. I have it right here. And I'm sure Bill can put the call-in number in the chat. If not, it's 419-549-5744.
Uh-oh. Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here, but we've had a little technical glitch. I'm going to have Tam watch the chat to confirm that they are still in. But unfortunately, and I'll explain why after this, but I'll give the person 2 minutes to chime in to the chat, so give them space, folks. I don't want someone else saying that, oh, I'm here, when that's not the name we're looking for. But the person that won this little surprise is Shannon Bortner. So if Shannon's in the chat, and I'm pretty sure she is because I saw her in there a little bit ago.
Saw her earlier.
Right. And that's why I said we've had a little bit of a technical glitch, because I got word just a minute ago that the Bortners are currently out of phone service and are unable to call in if they would have to.
Okay. We'll go with that.
So, unfortunately, we won't be able to have her call in to claim her prize, but she will have the option to claim it in the chat. So, hopefully...
Sounds good to me.
And she is in there. She has claimed her prize that she doesn't even know what it is yet. So I'll let you break the news. She'll like this.
Well, Shannon, I got into a pretty decent nugget patch up in the Fairbanks district. I've got a 1 gram nugget for you. And you could, if you have a good goldsmith, you could have him mount a ring on that and put it on a necklace.
Well, maybe they do have phone service, because somebody's trying to call in. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, this is Shannon. I have 1 bar. We are living in our camper.
Stand still.
Right, don't move.
Don't move. Did you hear what you won?
Yes.
Okay, you send Josh the information for me to mail it to, and I'll get it out to you. You get an S&W patch, and I will put that in a dime coin holder, staple it up good, and I'll drop it in the mail. And today's spot on a gram of gold was $57.80 for 1 gram.
That is a nice prize. Or surprise.
And that was found on the northern end of the Fairbanks mining district.
Oh, how cool.
And
I'm trying to take me next year.
Well, I told Josh I'd give one out for Detecting Beyond Sight and Sound group. You guys, a lot of you support me. I'll support you back.
Well, how nice. Thank you.
Congratulations on your win.
And it's a pretty little one. It'll shine up. Don't do anything with it. If you decide to mount it and wear it, it will shine up and glisten all by itself.
How
Just
cool.
being warned.
Thank
You're welcome. You're welcome. And sometime I think in the future, on dig the plugs, somebody may come up with another one similar to it.
Yeah, you never know.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And she is
But get
truly
Josh
a
that
happy
in, please.
camper.
Yeah. I got to step away for a minute, Josh. I'll let you talk to Frankie, and then we'll wrap up.
There you go. Well, congratulations to Shannon on her win. I'm sure that will look very, very nice. So, just private message me your shipping information. I will get that on to Chuck, and he will get that packed up and out in the mail to you. Who knows, maybe even yet this week or beginning of next week, I would think.
Cool, thanks a lot.
Not a problem. Thanks for tuning in.
Oh, sure. Love the show.
All right. Well, thanks for the call. Congratulations once again. I'm surprised she was even able to get through. I mean, she was barely in there with 1 bar, but she got through. So, did you get any small nuggets too, Frank?
No, I didn't. I just high banked and did the slick plate. I looked, but my patience runs short. I gave it 2 days. I hunted hard for 2 days. Didn't find no.
But there were fish to catch.
Nothing. So I said, there's fish to catch. So I took off, went fishing.
Right.
I know I could get them.
Yeah, it sounds like you didn't have any problem getting them either.
No, it was fun. It was a good time. Man, them salmon, silver salmon, them babies can fight.
Oh, I'll bet.
Fight, pull the line, let the drag sing. You almost got to run down the bank to catch up to them for you. They won't peel you dry.
Wow.
But yeah, it's fun. Pole bent. Yeah, nice. It's great. Good time.
Yeah,
I asked my buddy. I asked my buddy Catfish Kelly because Chuck says, "Hey, we got an opening." I said, "Well, let me make a phone call." So I went over to my buddy's house. He was home, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, John," I said, "we have an opening to go to Alaska." Well, he asked his wife. The wife says, "Sure, go ahead." He says, "Okay." So yeah,
right. I ain't gonna ask twice. I'm out of here. Right.
Yeah.
And it sounds like even after feeding the camp for a couple of days, you still had quite a bit that you were able to ship home.
Yeah, I brought home 25 pounds. I could have brought home 50, but that was a big box.
Right. Yeah, I imagine shipping would not have been fun on a 50-pound box.
And it was $30 just for the 25, but it was worth it.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Can't beat that.
Good time for sure.
So are you going to give it 2 days on the next trip of hunting for gold, or are you going to hunt a little harder next time?
Well, if I find a nugget within 2 days, I might hang for another day or two, maybe. I don't know. But, like I say, my patience runs short. And and then they didn't tell me I had a good hit, and it was had a different color to it, but I must have lost it somewhere. Here at the table, they were talking, oh, yeah, there's titanium or whatever around here.
Oh, platinum.
Platinum, yeah. And I think I had a piece of that, but I couldn't find it in my bag, so I must have dropped it or took it out when I put my glove in or something or whatever, because I couldn't find it in there.
Oh.
But I'm pretty sure that's what it was, but I didn't know. I would have put it in my pocket if I'd known that, but I do now.
Right, yeah. Well, at least now you're more aware, so the next time you go back, if you run across one, you'll know better. Keep it closer at hand.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, that's nothing to shake a stick at either.
Great time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I was vicariously watching and living the experience through the go lives and posts from Chuck and Chicago Ron and sharing those, and it looked like you guys just had an absolute blast from the time you hit the ground in Alaska.
Yes, we did.
And then
I'm back. Yes, we did. We went with an attitude. We're going to have fun regardless of whatever went on. I saw somebody posted up it's a bit pricey. Well, yeah, you had an airplane ticket, but you know what? I've seen people drop 3 times that amount going to a theme park. So,
and I've seen people drop that much
all
to
what
do
you make
DIV.
of it, all what you get out of it, and going to DIV is pricey. Going to some of these other things gets pricey, and but on this one, you can pay for the trip. I'd never guarantee it. I don't guarantee you any gold, but I'll guarantee you're going to have a good time.
And you'll have an experience that you're not going to get anywhere else.
That's right.
Even if it's just for the scenery.
Yep. There's a whole list of other things that they do up there. They can take you into town. There's some shopping down there at a couple of the sites where the Russian stuff is there. There's going down to the old known beaches, and the gals love to pick up that glass. The glass there is unlike any other beach glass you'll find anywhere in the world. I'm serious. And I've got a whole bunch of it. Jill's got it here. I've picked up for her. And there's all kinds, and they'll take you out on, if you want to do a couple-hour tour, if you're into bird watching, that is the biggest junction point of migratory birds in the world, from Europe, Russia, U.S., the Arctic, and, that type of stuff goes on. There's tours of the old train to nowhere, and it sits out in the middle of nowhere. All the steam engines are still sitting there. All the equipment, they came in with grand high hopes of building a rail out, and the permafrost and the way that ground heaves all the time up and down, they just couldn't do it.
Right, it's just
and
not
so
feasible.
they had enough railroad ties to build what they call the Corduroy Road. It's still there. It's still used. They travel over it. And if I'm not mistaken, side by side, there's 60 miles of railroad ties.
Wow.
And they call it the Corduroy Road. So there's all kinds of neat stuff. There's the dredges you can tour. The old bucket lines, they're still sitting there. When you come into the Nome Airport, you walk out, you're looking at a bucket line dredge just over to the left. And they're all just sitting there, monoliths of old. And many of these places down below, these guys, literally even today, they've got one, a smaller one, that's set up as a little park for Nome. People will go in there and they won't find a gold nugget laying there.
Wow. Well, see, and
just line of sight.
Realistically, the price doesn't sound all that bad to me. Not for the experience, the history, the scenery. Sounds like actually it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. If I was just going to Nome and back, maybe Frank and I don't know what Frank paid for his, but you're in the $800 range. What'd you pay, Frankie? You remember?
For what now, Chuck?
Airfare.
Your airline ticket.
Oh. 1,023.
Okay.
But we flew from Moline, Illinois to
right. We didn't drive
O'Hare.
to Chicago. There's a couple $100 extra there. You can get a ticket, and
that was probably money well spent, though.
Oh, it is. Yes, yes.
It is.
I hate Chicago with a passion.
Yeah. But we hook up with Alaska Air. You can fly United, but as soon as you go into Anchorage, you will be switching to Alaska Air anyway. Right. So they rule the skies in Alaska because there are certain airports that the only people that can land the plane there are from Alaska Air, and Nome is one of them. It's a short runway. You're coming in on a what were those, 737s, Frank?
37.
And when you hit the ground, they're hitting the brakes. Your nose is up on the seat in front of you.
Right. It's a short runway.
Goes on too. Yeah. Yes.
And, you pull up, it's a rather large Morton building. They bring a pickup truck with a ramp on it out to the plane. You get off, you walk across the tarmac, you go in, and you wait for them to unload because they're trying to get it unloaded, loaded, and out of there. And we had a very low ceiling that day. And I'm talking 100 feet. And all of a sudden, boom, you saw ground. And you landed, you got off. They want to get that plane out before the ceiling dropped in too tight. They couldn't leave.
So just the landing for someone traveling to Alaska can be a little harrowing.
Well, it's interesting.
Yeah, that'd be one word for it.
I'll leave it at that. But I've never had a problem there. It's just when he comes in, does the wing over, comes around Nome, goes out over the Bering Sea, comes in, there's about a 55-foot tall barrier, so the ocean can't get up into the airport during rough seas. And you drop over that, you hit that runway, and they're reversing. They got everything's being in brake mode. You come to an end, and you're there.
Whoa, horse!
The plane does a 180 pivot, and you just go back to the Nome Airport, get off, and from there the adventure begins.
It's like drifting for airplanes.
Yep. So, and it's an amazing thing to get to go do. And I've talked about people. Richard, I don't know if the runway's longer than a carrier.
Yeah, good question.
It seems shorter when you hit the ground. It really does.
Right.
Yep.
Well,
if you're looking for a little adventure, that's it. I'm telling you. And if you get lucky and you come over a nice nugget, that just adds to it.
Right. That's just bonus. That's icing on the cake at that point. And if you find enough gold that it pays for your trip, hey, great.
Florida and go up and down Treasure Beach, up and down there, and not hardly get anything. And then, they'll stay in a hotel. They'll drive down there, fly down there. They'll drop just about as much for a week, 10 days in Florida as you will up there.
If not more, easily.
I will tell you this much, getting off the plane, walking into Moline, I was overdressed.
Well, then you picked a good week to go.
Yes, I did. It was hot. But anyway, so we're putting together another group for next year. It will be a larger group, and I'll be pulling my hair out, and I've already warned Steve and Augie that you come with my group. It's always fun. They knew that. We had a good time there, and we make it fun. It's metal detecting and prospecting and adventure type stuff and going out in the outback and have a good time.
Right. It's the whole
once you
gamut.
leave that camp, you're in the outback. It isn't off the edge of Nome. You're already 8 miles up mountain. As soon as you get on an ATV and you leave, you're out in some pretty rough tundra, and you see some neat stuff. Nelson, I did not see the Northern Lights. The one night it was clear, I got up. I purposely went out and sat there for a while. It's dusky. It isn't real dark. And I've seen it when it's dusky, and it's beautiful. But we didn't have them while we were there.
Oh. Well, maybe next year.
Yep. So, and the guys that are already signed up are some of the best. These guys are detectorists. They know their equipment. They know what to listen for, and you'll learn a lot if you talk with them about metal detecting in general. We had Tim, we had Frank. He's my detect-expert on one side, and Frank does a good job, but if there's fish smell in the air, he's gone.
Right.
And then and myself, and we will help you run a detector. We will help you learn how to pan gold. I had to teach a couple of the guys that had never done gold panning how to walk gold up the side and clean it up good. And we did good, and I can't say any more about that. And breakfast is at 6:30 a.m. You can pack a lunch. They got the stuff there for ham and cheese sandwiches and bags of chips, and you can take it with you and not come back all day. 6:30 that night, you can eat. You can go back out. You can clean up gold in the camp and hang out, and a few beers and get drank, and it's a good time. But I'll tell you, about the third day, you didn't see anybody staying up very late.
Yeah, right. Yeah, everybody's getting wore out having to dig them big old holes with them picks. That's hard work.
That's right. It included me. And you start swinging a half-handle pickaxe trying to get holes opened up and pulling rocks. And Frank will tell you.
Right.
Good exercise, ain't it, Frankie?
Yes, it is, for sure. Muscles you haven't used for a long time.
Right, yeah. If you're gonna take the trip next year, maybe going to the gym a little bit in advance is not a bad idea.
Yes. Not a bad idea.
If not for any other reason, it might help in fighting them salmon, trying to get them in.
Yeah, I already got a new pole already for next year. I went and ordered one.
Oh, well, see, you're not wasting any time.
Rod.
There you go.
Is it a collapsible or 3-piece?
It's a collapsible 4-piece. It'll fit in the luggage again.
There you go.
Nice.
So
there you go. And by the way, the Equinox breaks down nicely in luggage. And the sniper coil, the 6-inch coils, they found a lot of small gold. So that's something else to look at. Stock coil, the 14 or the 14-inch coil, no, that's not going to do you much.
Not
Everything
for that
was found on stock and some of the nuggets were only a couple inches. They'd fluffed it up. They'd bulldozed it. Others were much deeper. The 8-inch was under a bulldozed area into original tailing.
The big nugget, yeah.
Yeah,
and that was hit with an Equinox and the stock coil.
Yes, 100%. Totally impressed with that in the Goldfield up there. Now, if you go down into, and I've seen some of the guys like Rob and some of the other ones using that 800 doing pretty well with it in Arizona also.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's a good little gold machine. It's a fantastic little gold machine. I'm very impressed with that part of it.
And for the price, you can't beat it.
No. And you know what? People ask me all the time, you think you can pay for one of them? Oh, yes, you can, but are you in it to just pay for the machine? Or are you in it to go out and find some history or nuggets or anything else? I said there's a whole involvement when you go out and detect, and you can meet a lot of great people, you can have a lot of fun, you can do the detecting, you can get in groups, you can do YouTube, you can do all this other kind of stuff. It's kind of a little bit of a lifestyle.
Right.
But I separate gold hunting away from all the rest of it because you generally are out away when you're out nugget shooting in places in Arizona and Australia and Alaska and Wyoming and those gold fields, those type of things, Colorado. I mean, you're not in a city park by no means.
Yeah.
And
you're not going to find any better social distancing.
Right. And when you do a week trip up to a place like that, you want to get out, enjoy the most of it, be out there, and it is an adventure. It really is.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. So, and be prepared for changing weather all the time.
Yeah, you got to pack for pretty much any condition.
While we were there, they didn't come up. Augie was talking to me about it. And the Northwestern, they were getting ready to go crabbing. And they came in at Nome. And there were some others starting to show up because their short crabbing season was about to begin. But it had been so rough up there, nothing was getting done. But those boys run out from Nome, another 120 miles north and up to the ice pack. They will go to the edge of the ice pack to crab. So they were starting to come into town, and some of the guys who went in town went to a couple of stores. I know some of the owners, and they went into one, and they said, "Where are you guys from?" "Oh, we're Illinois and Iowa." "Oh, you're here with Smalley, aren't you?"
Yeah.
So I've been there enough. I know enough people. I can get us moving around pretty well if we have to.
Hey, that's the important part. Sometimes it really is who you know.
Yep. So... And that was the first time I've seen a six-wheeler. Steve Pomeranke has a six-wheeler that's got heat. It's enclosed. I looked at him. I said, "Where did you get this?" "Yeah, I ordered that in kind of special."
He's really roughing it.
It's Cadillac. Really roughing it. Double suspension, the whole thing. He said, "I don't want to get beat up anymore." And that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, he worked hard for it. He earned it. He might as well enjoy it.
That's right. And he still works hard. Yeah, we went down there that night. He's still up running. He's clearing brush away. You're getting ready to open a new section of that cut that they're making. They're on that ancient tertiary bed, an old water flow, and it's deep. I'm talking 90 feet. They're going down 90 feet, hitting an old riverbed, and it's just loaded. And he's the one... He's the one that figured it out, and he's doing very well on it.
Good.
And I got asked by Ohio Relic Hunter asked me about the number of my underwear I packed for the trip correlate to how close the bears come. Yeah, I can. Yes, it can. Trust me.
Hey, Josh.
Yes.
A lady, Lauren, says, what pound line do you use? Well, about 12-pound test line on a medium reel with at least 200 yards plus large spool on it. Because when them fish take off running, they'll peel that off and pretty quick. And sometimes you might have to run down the bank to try to catch up with them to reel some line back in on you.
Yeah,
I'll bet
they can really put some distance between them and you when they're running.
Oh boy, yeah. Powerful fish. Unbelievable.
Right. But powerful, good eating, too.
And you bet that, too.
And what did I tell you the first time you fished for silvers up there?
Hold on.
Remember, Frank? Hold on.
Hold on.
He said he was going to go catch silvers.
Running.
I said, have a good time. Go on down there. I've caught them. But I'm going to tell you something. You're going to come back more wore out than you ever have been, because when they take off, if you're working the riverbank, you got to move with them. You don't have enough line. Trust me.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Frank was running up and down that thing.
The first time I went there,
come back.
I couldn't make it back up the hill. I couldn't make it back up on top of the hill. The guy had to come down and grab my arm and pull me up. First time in my life I got beat up by fish. True story.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a great place. So stay tuned. We'll have postings on how many openings we got left, and usually in October we're sending in the down payment if anybody is interested. And I know that there are already people wanting to go, but we're trying to take care of some of those that, hearing back from them, that wanted to go last year first and see if they can get on it. And I literally have had folks emails and calls from people I have no idea who they are or where they were at, wanting to know if they could come on this trip.
Word
so I've got their
spreads
names
fast.
wrote down upstairs on a waiting list already. But there will be slots open to I&I Club and some of the locals, and detecting beyond sight and sound. As that works out, I will let you know, because there are some other people I'm waiting to hear from that would make the trip even more enjoyable going to go. So we'll just leave it at that.
Right.
And going to get out of here. And we kind of went over on time, I think, there, Josh.
Oh, that's all right.
Again.
When you're having fun.
There you go. So
definitely.
But it was a great trip, folks. I can't say that enough, and that's my favorite form of metal detecting. I've looked for rings. I've recovered rings. I've done all kinds of great stuff. I've gotten into Civil War relics and coins. I've gotten rare coins, rare tokens. But you roll up a 1 ounce nugget and you will never have the same feeling again. You will never, ever have the same feeling again, because I know we all go look for rings and and the lost ones and that kind of stuff, and I've returned a lot of them. But then you're holding a 14 karat ring in your hand and you sit there and you just had a 3 ounce nugget.
Right.
Wonder, how many rings are out of this amount of gold? Because it's 53% at 14 karat.
Exactly. That is something else. But it was a good
I got
time.
one more thing to say real quick. With that glass, that they were talking about from the Bering Sea and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This gal that works there at AKAU, she makes necklaces. Well, she had a whole bag full, and I got to go through a whole bag full of stuff, and this one had little designs on it and stuff. It was really neat, so she made me a necklace, and I brought it home for the wife, and she loved it. She did a good job.
Oh, well, there you go. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Marcia, I think, made that. Or not Marcia. The one with doing the...
Marcy?
Marcy, yes. Yeah, she did that.
Yep.
So, yeah, she did a really good job, and I gave it to the wife, and she loved it.
Yeah.
Nice.
The common glass they're kind of from the clear style glass to a green, to a darker green, to an amber, to red and blue and they make some neat stuff out of that. And occasionally whole old bottles are found here and there. You can go out and you can relic hunt too.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of that going on up there too.
Right. Yep. So you hit the ground running, you keep running as hard as you can for the whole week, and then you go home, you have to take a break and rest up from vacation.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, by the time you got home, I'll bet you wished it would have been a little bit cooler at home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good. Well, I'm going to get out of here, guys. Josh, Frankie,
too.
I'll be seeing you.
Josh.
Get together here.
Yep.
We got to swap a couple of detectors. I'm sitting here looking at your detector over here.
Yeah,
And,
I got to clean yours up too, man. I haven't had time to do that yet, but I'll do that here real quick.
So, all right.
And that goes out to Shannon, and we'll get that once I get the information and get it in the mail to you.
Yes, congratulations to Shannon once again. Nice prize. Nice surprise.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks for the call, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. You can't tell we like it up.
Nice
right?
talking to you again, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure, Frank.
Okay, then. Will do. And if you need any more maps, give me a call or look up something for you. Maybe I can help you out.
I will do that whenever I can get away from the home repairs and remodeling.
You're in the middle of that all the summer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Sure.
All right. Well, so there is our update from Chuck and Frank. They definitely had a grand time up there. Great call from Chuck. Great call from Frank. Good to see all the listeners in the chat, and congratulations to Shannon once again. If you enjoyed the show, throw us a like. You can follow us here on Spreaker, the podcast distribution services, YouTube, Facebook, all of that jazz. Join us on one of them, all of them, or none of them. The choice is entirely up to you. And until the next one, well, don't forget, can you dig it? Thursday. We're here Sunday and Wednesdays when we can be. And then Detect America on Mondays. Have a wonderful evening, folks. We're out of here.